In this video, you will find out what your financial personality type is and what your financial spirit animal is, as well as what you can do to better take care of your finances now that you know what your financial personality type is. So let's start with the first type. The first type is the saver or the squirrel. If you are a saver, then these things should sound very familiar to you. You save money excessively. Every cent you get in, you save. You put that money to the side for a rainy day. You have a real need to have that money available, to see it. You might check your accounts frequently. And expenses feel horrible. Anything you have to pay that doesn't make sense, that you cannot rationalize, you will not spend money on. Oftentimes, you will not enjoy doing things because they cost money. You are an expert at finding the best deal, getting something for the best price possible. You are able to spot scams much better than most people. You are able to see what will lose you money. But oftentimes in the process, you don't invest your money. So you unknowingly tend to lose out on a lot of money that you could have made by investing it. So savers oftentimes focus entirely on their savings. Times of inflation feel hugely threatening to them because they see the value of their savings diminishing, something that horrifies them. So if those things sound familiar to you, then you, my friend, are a saver. Now, what can you do to improve your financial behavior knowing that you are a saver? Well, for savers, it is not advisable to just start investing all their savings. It will make them immensely uncomfortable. Instead, take baby steps. Take a small amount of the money that you have saved and dedicate it towards something that will bring you money, that will make you more money, or something that will make you joy, because you oftentimes will not spend money on things that could bring you joy, that could bring you fulfillment in your life. So these are steps you can actively take to be better with your money. You're a saver, that's great. You take care of your finances, but you can even take more care of your finances by thinking about the future, the long run, and making sure that that money is invested properly. Also, if you are a saver, you don't want to take high-risk investments because when they don't work out, you will stop investing altogether because you are a naturally careful person. Instead, invest in things that have low risks. You don't need to get the highest possible return. You do need to get some return to plan for your future and to combat the effects of inflation. From the saver, we move on to the opposite of the saver. This type is the spender or the peacock. If you are the spender, then this will sound familiar to you. You go outside or do some online shopping and you see something you want and you'll buy it right away. Or even if you do think a little bit about it, you say, well, I will enjoy this so much, I should buy it. But after you've bought it, you find yourself not using it much, or maybe not at all, and oftentimes experiencing buyer's remorse. You don't like that you spent the money on it. But the next time you're in a situation where you're presented with an opportunity to spend money, you do it again, regardless of the previous experience and the regret that you previously had. You typically will spend more money than is wise in your financial situation, and you oftentimes will find yourself paying huge bills that are not under a category of necessary. And you will have very fluctuating bills. So you might not spend that much one month, but then the next month you have a huge shopping spree, and so you have a huge credit card bill that you now need to pay. This is typically the spender type. It is in its most excessive forms, it becomes a shopping addiction. It becomes a purchasing addiction. But of course, most people whose financial personality is that of a spender never develop a shopping addiction. Just that spending money is what they naturally do with their money. Now, if this sounds familiar to you and you are the peacock, the spender, then this is something you can actively do to take better charge of your finances. First of all, look at previous purchases and examine which ones made you happy. Lastingly, not just the act of purchasing, but owning it, having it, using it. Did you use it? The next thing is establish a rule for yourself. You are most likely very impulsive in your purchases. So delay purchases. You see something, wait until you buy it. Don't buy it right away. Buy it a day later. Buy it 3 days later. Buy it a week later. Set limits to how much you're willing to spend. If you go out, put a budget on how much you're willing to spend. And don't go over it just because you see something exciting. If you say you're not spending more than $100, then don't spend more than $100. This budget needs to be based on your financial situation, and it needs to be based on what you can afford. So take these steps to be better with your spending. The money that you're now saving by not spending anymore, don't use it for larger purchases. Don't use the money that you save by not buying the clothes or the kitchen appliances or the vacation to then buy yourself a new car. But instead, do something worthwhile with the money, something that will benefit you in the long run. Now, let's move on to the next financial personality. This is the investor, the owl. If you are this, then the following things will sound very familiar to you. You will love to look at your money. You will find great pleasure by making more money. You believe money can buy happiness and that it can buy you things that enrich your life. You care deeply about what happens to your money, and just putting it into a savings account would not be satisfying to you. You will switch credit cards because you get a better offer on a different one. You will get an account that is optimized to your financial needs. You will read the fine print. You will be aware of what the S&P 500's value is today, or at least what it was last month. You will generally look at the long run. You will try to see, where will my finances be 40 years from now? Where will they be 60 years from now? Another characteristic of the investor is that most people that fall in this category, there are exceptions, but most people do want recognition for being investors, for being smart with their money. They want other people to see and acknowledge that they are good with money. Now, if you are the investor, you might ask yourself, what tips is he going to give me to be better with money? Being better with money is always about being better in life in general. And so what you will hear is not to make you more money, but it is so that you can profit from that money that you're making. If you are the investor type, great, continue investing. That is good for you. But there is also non-quantifiable investments, such as investing in yourself, investing in your mental health, your physical well-being. Oftentimes, the investor type will find that they have saved up and invested all that money over the years at the cost of their own physical well-being, so that when they're old, they need to now spend that money to then regain some of the health that they have lost. Avoid this. Make sure that you don't sacrifice your own physical and mental well-being for half a percentage point more on the stock market. It is not worth it in the long run. So what else can you do if you're the investor type to be better to yourself? Build things that last in your life. Oftentimes, investors will pursue the best opportunity that is quantifiable. And oftentimes they will therefore not pursue non-measurable achievements, such as a relationship. For them, it might be more rewarding to see an investment grow than to see a relationship grow. Invest in more than just your financial portfolio. Invest in your portfolio of life. Now, the next financial personality is going to be the fearless. If you are like the lion, then you have a rather rare financial personality. You don't really worry about money every day, but you have plenty of it. Almost everyone that falls in this category is wealthy. They do not believe that money buys them happiness, but they tend to believe that money provides them with opportunities. Typically, these people will be set up financially in a way that they do grow richer, that they do aspire to more finances in life. They do not care about the 0.5% difference that they can make on that investment versus this investment. What they do care about is balance in their life. They care about making sure that their financial portfolio supports not just itself, but their lifestyle and their family. These kinds of people don't necessarily fear having less money because they almost always live below their means. You might not spot this person because almost everyone that falls in this category claims to have less money than they actually do. And sometimes they even believe that they have less money than they do. They don't avoid the subject of money, it just isn't a concern for them. They are not scared of it. So, if you are this person, what can you do in your life to benefit, to improve yourself, to improve your financial situation, to improve your own well-being? Honestly, the best thing that you can do for yourself is to make sure that you pass on that knowledge to your family members, your children, your partner. That's the best thing you can do for yourself. You are already most likely spending money on the things that make you happy, not spending it on the things that don't make you happy, and are financially well off. The thing that I would urge you to look at is the future. Not the financial future, not your physical well-being, not your mental well-being, because all those will be well taken care of. But your children, your grandchildren. Make sure that they develop a similar approach to finances and money to what you have. And so that they don't become spenders that spend the fortune that you build, or that they become another financial type that does not deal well with your fortune, or where you see them being unhappy with how they deal with money. Pass on the knowledge you have to the next generation. That's my big advice for you. The next financial personality is if you are the ostrich or the avoider, then you are most likely not watching this video because you don't like the subject of money. You don't like talking about it. You do not look at your bank statement very often, maybe never. You do not want to know how much money you have, how much money you need, or how much money you spend. You might not even accurately know how much money you earn. Believe it or not, many ostriches don't know how much money they make. They don't know what their money goes towards to. If these things do sound familiar, then you are an avoider. Now, how is the avoider different from the fearless? Because the fearless too doesn't necessarily make money their center point in life. The large difference is that the fearless don't fear not having money, but they also don't fear looking at their money. They also tend to have money, whereas a lot of avoiders financially suffer from not looking at their finances, not taking charge of their financial future, and typically they do it when they are forced by their environment, by their bank, their credit card company that they are with, by their spouse, their employer. they typically work on external impulses. And so if you are an avoider, honestly, congratulations, you're already doing something hugely important for you. You are watching this. You are informing yourself about finances, finding out what your personality type is. Amazing. I love it. Now, what else can you do? Honestly, don't get the big shock. Don't look at your bank statement all at once. Look at it in portion and have a support system in place that is there to support you as you look through your finances. Someone that can be there for you for the good and the bad, and someone that can motivate you to keep on looking. Ideally, a close friend or your spouse. If you have someone like that, that is perfect. They can be there for you to look at finances together. They can support you with whatever you discover. And another thing that avoiders can do oftentimes is to outsource the financial responsibility. If you're an avoider and you are married to an investor or a saver, then you can, hand off that burden of looking at the money. Of course, it's great if you do know about what your family finances look like, but then you can get your partner to also look at your money for you. This is another thing that avoiders can do. They can outsource, either through someone that they trust or through an official institution, such as a bank or a financial advisor. This is hugely important for avoiders because oftentimes avoiders don't necessarily earn badly, as one might assume, but instead avoiders just avoid the subject of money altogether. Now, the next financial personality type and financial spirit animal is if you are clashing or the chameleon, then you are a person who will find the following very familiar. For days or weeks, you will save money. You will not spend anything. You will exercise great discipline with how you use your money. You're not buying anything unnecessary until one day you see that one thing you just can't resist and you splurge big. And all those savings that you build up, you're wiping out again. And then you do it again. And then you do it again. This is the person that saves and then spends. They are a crossbreed between the saver and the spender. And consequently, they also have a lot of internal conflicts. They do want to build up wealth by saving, but they also want to enjoy the finer things in life by spending. And oftentimes, the spender, when enacted, cannot enjoy itself because in the back of their mind, the saver wants to save money. And oftentimes, while being in saving mode, you still can't enjoy the savings that you're making because it's an active effort for you. You don't get joy from it. So both saving as well as spending don't necessarily bring you joy. There are some, though, that find joy in both, which of course is already better. Yet they still don't deal well with their money because oftentimes they will ignore the things that they do spend large amounts of money on. Now, one thing that does need to be pointed out with the saver spender is that oftentimes the things that the saver spenders or the clashing people spend their money on will seem very rational to them, but it will seem absolutely irrational to an outside person. They might spend it on a new car or a vacation or an expensive piece of clothing, which they can rationalize to themselves, whereas an outside person will not understand that spending and would not associate it with that person, where they say, well, you don't buy a drink in the restaurant, how come you buy yourself a new car? So if you are the clashing personality, the chameleon, well, then what you can do to be better with your finances and help you in your life in general is to have someone around you that can regulate you, that can help you. So someone that when you save a lot can loosen you up a bit and say, hey, It's okay to spend a little bit. But when you are in your spending moods, that you have that person that can tell you, hey, you don't really need this. Don't spend the money on it. You will regret it. Hugely important. So that neither part of this controls your life too much. If you don't have that person, become that person for yourself. Be that person that says, maybe I should spend a little bit more. And then at other times, maybe I shouldn't spend money on this. This will hugely help you with making sure you're better prepared for your financial future. And you will find that you can spend money more often than before, but that overall you will spend less money. And so you actually are better at being who you want to be, because you can spend more often and save more often at the same time, which is quintessentially what you're craving. And then those extra savings you can of course invest. Or you can then save them for a purchase that actually is meaningful in your life, such as buying a house or something that you truly care about and that will add long-term value to you. Now, the next financial personality we will look at is... Now, if you are the honey badger or the gambler, then this will sound extremely familiar to you. You are willing to take huge risks because seeing a risk pay off and getting that reward is immensely satisfying for you. But when you do lose, it's a horrible feeling for you. You like to make a lot of money, but you also like to spend a lot of money. Something such as go big or go home sounds really nice to you. It's a sentence that resonates with who you are. You will oftentimes find yourself having a lot of money one month or 1 year and having a very different amount of money the next year. You do not have a lot of financial stability in your life and have learned to live with it. Now, if these things sounded familiar to you, then you are a gambler. Now, this does not necessarily mean that you gamble in a sense of going to the casino, but you gamble with your money or your career. You might be willing to take big career jumps or seek out the big potential for money. You will most likely put money into individual stocks and not into a widespread portfolio. Things such as diversification don't necessarily mean much to you. You don't care much about it. And the risks that pay off are immensely satisfying. Now, if you are the gambler, what can you do to be better with your finances and be better to yourself in life in general? Now, what you can do actively is to assess how good you are at gambling. Oftentimes, gamblers become almost addicted to the act of gambling, not just in a casino, but in real life, without assessing if they're good at it. Assess if overall you are benefiting or losing out because you are a gambler. If you're overall benefiting, then it might not be so bad, even though there's still some downsides to this. But if you're overall losing, then you might want to really immediately adjust your financial behavior. The gamblers also oftentimes need someone in their life that can help them look at a risk from a more realistic perspective. Oftentimes, gamblers will underestimate the risk of something because they have become so risk tolerant. If you're a gambler, ask a friend, ask a spouse, ask someone you trust, is this risky in your opinion? Important for the gambler is also to avoid secrecy. Many gamblers will not talk to people. Another thing that gamblers can do that is very useful for them is to put money away in a place where they can't access it easily. So if you have savings, don't just put it in a traditional savings account. Put it in a high yield savings account where you might have to go through more paperwork to withdraw that money. so that after you made an investment, you can't just use your savings to make the next investment. This is hugely helpful to the gambler personality. Restrict your own access to your own money. Now, the next financial personality is going to be, if you are the elephant or the warrior, then you worry a lot about money. Money is something that you oftentimes have on your mind and it concerns you. You also, like an elephant, have a long memory and you tend to mostly remember when you didn't make the money, when you lost out on something and are therefore scared to now pursue financial opportunities. You are not necessarily uneducated about money, but rather every bad experience weighs much heavier on you than any good experience. And so you let the bad financial experiences you had dictate your life today, even though many of them might have happened years or even decades ago. A warrior or elephant might oftentimes find that when they were young and started investing for the first time, they lost their money because they didn't know what they were doing. But now that they're much older and more experienced, they still don't invest money because that memory is still burned into their brain and they can't get it out. When I was that age, I lost that amount of money. That was horrible. I don't ever want to experience something like this again. The advantage of being a warrior, of course, is that you avoid financial scams, that you avoid losing money. The disadvantage is that you also avoid financial opportunities because they scare you too much. Now, again, the warrior might sound similar to the avoider or the ostrich, but they're very different. The ostrich avoids the subject of money altogether. If it's brought up to them, they don't like to talk about it. Whereas a warrior or an elephant, they don't mind talking about money. They just really worry about it and oftentimes will urge people around them to be more cautious with money. Should you really spend money on this? Is this a good idea? Maybe this is too expensive. Maybe this is not going to work out. Now, what can you do if you are an elephant or a warrior? Well, what you can do to be better with your money and take better charge of your life is go small steps. Just like the saver, the squirrel, what you need to do is don't make the big leap and do something you're entirely uncomfortable with, but make new experiences. You have the experience already that went bad. Now you need some good experiences. You also are much older, most likely, than you were when you made those bad experiences, and therefore you have much more knowledge. Make informed decisions that will pay off. Again, you, just like the saver, don't need to chase the biggest possible return, but make sure you do get a return on your money and don't just miss out on a bunch of financial opportunities. This is what you can do for yourself. Also, by doing this, you will find that you worry less in your life in general. You will start to find that you are more in control, that you are capable, that you can manage your money well, and that you don't constantly have to worry about, is this going to work out? Because most warriors don't just worry about money. They worry about most things in life that are remotely connected to money, such as their job, their income, their expenses, their lifestyle. All these things tend to worry them. Now, the next financial personality that we're going to look at is the sharer or the bee. If you are a bee, then this will sound just like a description of you. You share whatever you have, even if it is more than is good for you. You will give everything you have to friends, family members, donations, whatever you can give, you will give. And at the end of the day, you will fall into bed exhausted and penniless because you gave everything you had. And you do this again the next day and the next. And you do it all your life. and you oftentimes find that you have to give others, that you are almost obligated to share. You don't only share because you enjoy it, but you share beyond the point of enjoyment. You might actually enjoy sharing a lot, but you do it beyond the point of comfort. You do it to a point where it starts to hurt you and be a burden for you. Now, a positive thing about the sharer is, of course, that they positively influence their environment. They help the people around them tremendously. So oftentimes what you will find is that sharers are almost like seed starters or fertilizers in their environment. They themselves will never truly flourish, but the people around them, they flourish tremendously. They become very successful. And so this is the great gift of the sharer, is to help those around them. Now, what can you do if you find yourself to be a sharer, to take better care of yourself and your finances? Well, look at what is good for you. Look at what is healthy for you and treat the sharing that you perform as an investment. Look at which sharing actually paid off. When I helped that person, did it make a difference in their life? Did they then do something with that time I gave them, the money I gave them? Did they do something positive? Or was it just wasted? Treat your sharing more like it is a balance sheet. Look at what paid off, not just for you, but what paid off in general and what didn't pay off. If something didn't pay off and didn't pay off for you, don't do it again. But there might be things that paid off for you and the person you were sharing with. And I'm not just talking about financially paid off, I'm also saying emotionally paid off. And if you find that, then continue sharing in that place. Another thing that is very important for the sharer is the same thing that the chameleon needs. Limits. You need limits on how much you're willing to share, both in your time, as well as your energy, as well as your attention, and of course, your money. All of this you need to cap. You need to set a limit on how much you will share with people. Plan for it and don't exceed your budget of sharing in any form. Now, the other thing that you need to make sure is that you get joy from sharing. Whether it is sharing your time or your money, enjoy it. Make it an act of pleasure, not just something that you feel you're obligated to do. Now, the next financial type is the sloth or the debtor. This is a person who tends to live with debt all their life. They don't necessarily reduce the amount of debt, they just continue living with it and have started to be almost comfortable with it. They push it to the back of their mind that they owe money, whether it is to a bank or their credit card company or friends, family, or wherever else. This is not just about money, this is also about other forms of debt, such as owing a friend a favor. These people will typically push it into the back of their mind. Now, oftentimes, this is not an active effort of the debtor. Many debtors feel bad about being in debt, being indebted to others. They just don't know how to get out of that situation. It almost feels like they're stuck in a hamster wheel. Every month, they're paying their bills, and every month, they don't really reduce the amount of debt that they have. And so oftentimes, the people that are debtors don't really talk much about it because they feel judged by society. They feel seen as the sloth, even though they say, well, I can't do more. Where else am I supposed to get that money from? How am I supposed to pay back that debt? The majority of debtors is not comfortable being classified as a debtor. Now, what can you do if you find yourself to be a debtor? Here is what you can do. You, first of all, can talk to people. Be honest to yourself and others about how much you owe, how much you make, what can you pay back, and look at your expenses, your lifestyle. Oftentimes, in the effort of pushing the debt to the back of your mind, you accumulate more debt because you do activities that cost money to distract yourself. And instead, you can take charge of your life because, again, you are not comfortable being in debt. You don't want to be in debt. You just don't know how to get out of that. So make a budget, look at your expenses, look at your income, sell the things that you don't need, maybe downsize the way you live if you can, and make sure to get out of a situation of debt. It will tremendously free you in your life. Now, this is something where you can also be supported in, of course. Find people around you that you trust. Chances are they already know you're a debtor. Because again, debt is not just about money, it's also about owing a friend a favor. So they will already know this is your personality, but they can be your support system. They can help you to be better with your money and not accumulate more debt. Now, if you would like, in a separate video, I can talk about different financial strategies for getting out of debt, comparing snowball systems to other systems that exist for paying down your debt. If so, let me know in the comments and I will definitely make a video about that. Now, we have now looked at the 10 different financial personalities and spirit animals, as well as looking at advice for each category, how to better take care of their life and take charge of their financial situation. Now, to close out the subject of the financial personalities and the financial spirit animals, I would like to say one more thing. There is no purebred financial spirit animal. Whatever you are, whoever you are, you will incorporate more than one financial personality. And therefore, you also need to incorporate more than just one kind of financial advice into your life. Personal finance is called personal finance for a reason. It is individualized, or at least it should be individualized. Look at yourself. The first step to being better with your money is to be honest with who you are right now and who you want to be. Not who others want you to be, but who you want to be. And then compare who you are to who you want to be. And look honestly at what you do. What is your financial behavior? Oftentimes, people will assign judgment to these 10 different characteristics. Almost no one wants to be called a sloth or debtor. And most people would love to be called a saver or fearless or an investor. This is not important. What is important is honesty and truth. Be honest with yourself. Whatever category you fall into, it is okay. It is perfectly fine. Don't try to pretend to be part of another category to feel better about yourself, because you will not help yourself by doing that. Be honest. That is the only way how you can get closer to where you want to be in life. Honesty. And remember, no person is just one financial spirit animal. Everyone has different parts of these animals in themselves, and it's a question of which part you live and which part you nurture. You can choose which part you nurture more. And that has to be based on what you want in life. I'm sure this video helped you to find out who you are financially and what steps you can take to improve your financial future. I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment. And if you want to keep on learning, click on one of these videos.